Do you like to receive packages? Do you like to open packages? Do you like what's inside your packages? Do you hate having to deal with all the packaging supplies afterwards? Well, because same. Truly same. But the other day, I was looking around my space and I was like, I really, really want to have a good organization for my markers, like alcohol markers, black markers, other markers, pens. I don't hoard pens. Let's not get into that. I'm just a collector. Okay, just leave it at that. Anyway, so I thought, hey, I've got a lot of supplies here, a lot of cardboard, and I mean, you can make pretty cool stuff out of cardboard. So let's see, can we make some cute organization for my markers and pens out of these stuff that I was just going to throw away otherwise? That is the mission for today. So we have here some cardboard. Usually when I get packages, they come in cardboard that is made of paper. Usually there's some tape on it too. That is plastic. And then also like inside there's usually, this sort of brown paper that is not cardboard, but it's like it has this perforated edge in it. So like depending on how long it is. So I have tons of that. Now the brown paper with the perforated stuff in it, I try to save as much as I can and then use it when I ship supplies from my own store. That's great. But I've got a lot about that now. Now the cardboard I can't really reuse in the way I package stuff. So I thought, why not? Now, I have seen a lot of different marker organization stuff. I have been doing some Pinteresting, some YouTubing, some Instagramming to find some good things. So I know about like the size of it. The only really things I have to go on is like the depth of the marker. I want them to be like inside a box. And then I also want it to be slightly at an angle. So I'm keeping that in mind, and I'm thinking the easiest way is just to put a little shim underneath. And then I also want it to be divided so that I can easily store different categories and like easy to sort and all of that. So it's not like all markers just in one. I want it to sort in some way. So the first thing I do here is I make this sort of size that I think this is a good size. Now it's not going to be standing up, but I'm just measuring stuff. So I'm thinking this is a good size to start off with. And I'm thinking I'm going to make 2 so I can stack, and then if I don't want one, I can just be a bit more flexible. I didn't want to make one really big because I just felt that it would be easier to make it smaller and then stack them on top of each other. So I'm measuring out my shelves and I'm cutting those up, and I'm also making sure that I'm making them slimmer at the end. So I'm just measuring out like a few millimeters on each side, and I'm just going to cut that off so that it sort of tapers a little bit towards the back. This way it won't put that much stress on the back of the box. And because I'm just going to store markers in here, I don't need it to be like a perfect secure fit, If you're going to store like beads or sand, I don't know, but if you're going to store something else, it needs to be like where nothing can come between. But here it's more like something to lean on. Now I did a first mock-up here. I have 3 shelves and 1 divider sort of, but I realized that it was better to have 3 shelves and then 2 dividers. It would be more stable in the actual box, and I just like that better. And here you can see my little shim. I just took whatever offcuts I had, taped them together with masking tape, and taped that on. I'm brilliant. I could be an engineer, I swear. Anyway, so just right off the bat, I'm taking and sort of making it up with masking tape. Very, very basic. And here you can see it's a very short shim. It's like 1.5 centimeters, but it gives that perfect a little bit of a slant so the markers or pens won't fall out, but they are pretty much horizontal. And then on the top one, I just made a little curve just to finish it off nicely. Next up, we're going to actually make sure that this is all just put together. So I'm going to mix PVA glue, school glue, white glue, whatever you want to call it, with water so it will be slimmer, and then this brown paper. And I'm just going to tear it to make it more manageable into smaller pieces. And, you know, as you do this, you can make them into even smaller pieces if you want to, depending on what kind of project you're doing. This is kind of straightforward. It's kind of a big project it's not that difficult or finicky, but if you do like smaller things, just make the pieces smaller and it will be a lot easier. But it was very easy, just tear them up. And then we're going to do sort of papier-mâché decoupage style. So just put glue onto the paper and then cover all the edges. Now this serves two purposes, I would say. One is that you get rid of that sort of cardboard edging that is sort of giving it away that it's made from cardboard, but it also will make it all a bit more structurally sound. You have a little bit more support. Now you can see here I'm using a brush to brush it on, but in the end I just I just made smaller pieces and dipped it into my water glue mix. But I did really enjoy to keep using the brush once I had the paper onto the project, so I could sort of brush it out and make it more smooth. But I'm just going to do that. So for the actual divider, it's more like to keep them structurally sound. And then for the box, it's more about getting rid of all of the edges. So I didn't go through and put this paper all around the box, but I did put it all around the dividers. And it goes really quickly. It really does, and it's quite satisfying. I really liked it. So I think I might do this project again just because I really enjoyed it. This paper sucks water very, very quickly, and it's very easy to sort of finicky around it to make it smooth. And yeah, it was really, really fun. And it dries pretty quickly too. So, but I would have to say that, you know, it's always when you're making these sort of DIY projects, you're standing and like in one hand you have this way that it doesn't really cost you anything because you have got the supplies, you know, for free sort of with your package. And then on the other hand, you're like, should I buy something, but I don't have to spend any time on it? And that's when you sort of stand there and you have to weigh your options. And I have to say, like, I worked on this storage divider for 3 days. Now, I didn't work like completely 3 days just with this, but it's still, you know, it's a project that takes time. And I would say the most time it actually takes, it's all the drying time in between. So once I have figured out the measurements, and because I was making, you know, the 2 stories. So because of that, what actually took time was sort of, you know, the gluing of it and then letting that dry, and then all the other elements and letting that dry in between. But apart from that, so when I was doing this, I came here, I did this, I walked away, worked on something else, come back. Now I have that benefit that I do this in my workshop where I make paint. I have a big working surface. It's easy for me just to set up a big project and be able to leave it. But I can imagine if you don't have that, just say that you have your apartment, you're doing this on your kitchen table, it can be very frustrating that it takes such a long time. And I'm not saying this to sort of tell you not to do it. I'm just saying be aware when you're doing a project that takes a little bit of longer time, where you have drying time and, you know, stuff that are wet, or you need to really like, you can't just stack on top of each other. It can be a little bit annoying. So just trying to be open and honest about it. To try to make this look even prettier, I decided to use this stencil that is from Finnabair by Prima, and also Prima Finnabair paper paste. Now, any texture paste you have, I just wanted to get some structure onto this box. I mean, you can obviously paint it however you want it. I wanted to make something that had a little bit of texture and stuff like that without going too overboard, because I'm good at going overboard. So I used that. I also used Crackle Paste by Tim Holtz and Ranger, and that has it's a texture paste the same, but when it dries it has that sort of fine crackle, and I didn't want to use that on the whole project, so I just used it sort of in bits and pieces to get a few areas that had that sort of crackle effect, so to say. Now, this is one of those examples where you're working with a wet media that needs to dry, and yeah. So what I did to get like a good pattern on the top of it, I put one side first, let it dry, and then the other day I came back and finished that pattern off. Now, this stencil that I'm using is a repeating pattern. It's very easy just to line it up and continue over it. So yay for me for picking an easy stencil. Now, to bring it all together, I'm going to paint it, and I'm going to paint it brown, which is a very exciting color, I know, but I just feel like I wanted to make it dark inside, because I prefer seeing color against something dark, and this is the main function of this, is to store my markers, which are in color usually. And I just feel like I could get it to make it maybe look a little bit old, worn, a little bit of that woody feeling. I'm not going to put any wood texture on it, but you know, just to get a little bit of that. Everything in the studio is white, and I just felt like this would look like I was trying too hard, maybe. So I'm just deciding to go brown. So I'm going to paint all of it brown. Duh. Now I'm just going to do one layer on the dividers. You're never going to see sort of the inside. It's going to be dark, shadowy, and filled with markers. Believe me, I have a few of them. So just cover them, and then on the outside, the actual box, I'm going to go over and make cover that properly. As you can see, it is a little bit splotchy because of, you have glue under and paper, and some parts have more glue, some have more water, depending on how I've mixed it, not very consistently. So it doesn't cover completely evenly, but like I said, dividers, it doesn't really matter. But on the outside, I'm going to go over it 2 times, and then just to make sure that it looks completely solid. Now, if you're interested in making more of a wood feeling or a wood texture on it, then having the different tones and variation and brush strokes is working for your advantage. Just keep that in mind, and doing a completely solid coat will make it harder for you. So, yeah. And because I did the stencil first, I just need to paint it once, and I will cover all of that up once I'm painting it. Which is good. Now, you can do stencil work on top of paint, but I just wanted to have a little bit of that texture. I also have a sand block that I'm just sanding off the rough edges. I wanted to make it look a little bit old and worn, so I'm just mixing paint, black paint, and water. Now, this was a very lumpy paint. It looks kind of disgusting, and I think I should just have made my own with my own pigments, but c'est la vie, And because I have watered it down so much, this black paint will just sort of fall into the cracks of in between the stencil work, and also where I have used the crackle texture. And that's why I wanted to use the crackle texture. Now, it's not that obvious, it's not big crackles, but and to get this stencil work a little bit more visible, I'm going to take a lighter paint. I'm going to use grey umber or beige, mix brown with white, wherever you have. I'm going to put that on my brush, sort of stipple it away, and then just lightly brush it over. And this will just make sure that the the stencil that is raised up with the texture paste, you just get a little bit of a tonal shift. But I couldn't stop there, you know, so I'm going to mix my own metallic paint. I'm just going to use some heavy body glossy gel because I like the glossy finish. And I'm going to use the pigment for Glimra. And look how pretty it is! I started off with my finger, but because I had used the sort of paper texture paste, it has more texture than normal texture paste, and my finger was starting to hurt. So I just used the same effect, the same technique as before with that stiff brush. Dip the brush into the paint, stipple it off, and lightly just paint it over. And I just really like the effect of it. I feel like it's dark, but it's not just a solid black box. It has a bit of tonal shift, a little bit of, you know, the paint shift. So I really like the look of it, and I really like Glimra here. It's definitely more gold leaning, but it has that sort of metallic shine, and it's a little bit warmer. So I really like that. And you can do this with anything, any pigment that you have. Use any acrylic medium, glossy, matte, thick or thin, or whatever. Just make sure, you know, it's transparent, because well, otherwise it's the point. And then just take a little bit of a pigment. I used a lot because I did a lot, so I could save it in a jar. And you can use it for pretty much anything. If you have a heavy gel medium, you can use it for stenciling or anything. You can also, of course, use it the same way as we did with the black one, and then water it down, and that sort of have that in between the stencil work. So yeah. And I just rub that on top, on the dividers, so the dividers have a little bit of a gold edge, you know. And then, here it is. So, for now, this is how I think I'm going to have set it up. But, as we all know, new organization, it is bound to move around. But, let me just share how I have set it up for now. We have pencils. And these pencils are B pencils, so, you know, softer pencils. We have brush pens or brush nib pens. We have fine liners. There are black. Then we have the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens, cool colors. The warm color, so I suppose the black should be up there. More pencils, but HB or H grade pencils. Here I have fine liners that are colored, so mostly brown gray, but then also just mechanical pencils. I have a lot of these because I sell them in the shop and I just love them and I use them for everything, and yeah. This is not as cute, and I don't know if I will keep it here, but I use this so much. So in here I have a lot of clips, but I also keep my little wood blocks, and these wood blocks are for this desk easel. So you can see I have 2 of them on, but it comes with 3. So I just sometimes when I'm drawing, I don't want to have them because I want to be able to move my arms. But if I'm painting, I want to rest the pad or the paper onto these. So when I'm not using them, they go into that little box. And when I am using them, they're here. And I also like to have clips. So when I'm not using wood blocks, I like to use the big clips. So I have a lot of bigger clips in here. So that is something I'm reaching for quite frequently. This one it's a must. So it's close. Okay, so we have Ohuhu and Copic Chow. That is the brands that I have. So here is a green and more yellow green. White markers or fine liners or inks. Orange, yellow, more pink, but like more muted pink. Proper pink to red. Empty space. Here we have more teal, minty color, so green but towards blue, blue to purple, and then more reddy purpley colors. And these I'm not like peachy, soft, so in between pink, yellow, brown, warm gray, neutral gray, and cool gray. And I would say the mission to take ugly Amazon or any packaging supplies and turn it into something very pretty and functional, I would say that is mission accomplished. Don't you? Yeah? So I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's not like perfectly, especially if you look at the top line, it's not perfect, I know. But I think it looks really cute. And if I were to throw this away in 2 weeks, I wouldn't be that devastated. I didn't spend that much money, time, or supplies on it. So I feel like that is a fair trade. If I were to buy this, I would, have some form of attachment to it. But now I've made it, I know how much time and stuff I put into it. It's not worth that much, but it does fulfill something that I very, very much needed into the studio. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, have given you some hopefully tips and tricks if you want to do something similar. I would say if I were to do this again, I would be a little bit more careful with my measurements. And I would also make little boxes to go in some of these little cubby holes that I have now. So stuff like the clips or pen nibs or razor or something, that I could put those away in here too. Now, the grey little baskets does fit, but they just don't look very cute. But I think that is it. I am very, very happy with my little project that I've made. It looks very cute on my shelf. It's easy for me to reach. All my markers are there. It's not that heavy. I can easily move it around if I want to. So yeah, I really like it. And I think that's the most important part. Now, I hope you have liked this video. If you have, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more. I will be back on Thursday for a new studio vlog.